Scott first walked through the doors of the Breakfast Club in Almonte Springs, Florida in May 2012, he had no idea what to expect. He remembers thinking, who are the articulators? What is Toastmasters? Will there be Bloody Marys? Sadly, no, there were no Bloody Marys, but instead of finding a morning drinking club, Scott found his tribe, a tribe that changed his life. 3 years later, at the urging of his new tribe, Scott earned a master's in organizational leadership, where his thesis eventually grew into a book, his book into a business, and his business into a calling. 2 states, 3 districts, 5 divisions, 8 areas, and 11 clubs later, Scott's nomadic life and Toastmasters journey has landed him here, on this stage, eager to give back. Please help me welcome the chair of the Fall Education Day, Division B Director Scott Brown, and his talk, Play a Different Game.
I think one of the most inspirational things that you can see is a baseball field before it is unmarred by the footsteps of children's dreams, undeterred by their failures, unchanged by their successes. When all you see in front of you is the possibility of what can be. The problem is, someone my age that shows up at a Little League field tends to draw the attention for different reasons. When you look at me, I'm sure that the first thing that you think is, that is the body of a professional athlete. Why do you laugh? And it's not, so don't feel bad. But it is the body of somebody that played college baseball. But it had been 20 years since I had picked up a ball or picked up a bat, until one day at the end of the summer in 2010, when I found myself standing beside my red Jeep Wrangler, trying to explain to my friends how I managed to strike out in slow pitch softball. Twice. And I was standing there holding a Miller Lite in one hand and a bag of excuses in the other. My friend's wife, the perfect Southern belle, walked past us, stopped, turned and said, "Well, Scott, thank you so very much for agreeing to coach the boys this year in baseball. There's this tickled pink someone of your caliber is going to coach them." Wait, what? Now remember, the first practice is Tuesday at 5:30. Don't be late now. I had just been voluntold. You know, that feeling you get when you volunteer someone else to do that thing you know needs done, but you have no intention of doing it yourself. It's how many of us became club officers for the first time. And just like all of us that were voluntold to be club officers, I showed up at 5:30 on Tuesday to coach my friends' kids. Now, they were 9. He's the biggest kid on my team. I walked up to the fence and I surveyed my team, and I realized that living in Orlando, Florida gives you a little bit of a different perspective on who you might be coaching. And I realized I had found the 7 dwarfs. Plus their 3 cousins, Itchy, Scratchy, and Smelly. And I realized why I had been voluntold to coach that team. Nobody else would. I walked out to the field and I met my players for the first time. I met Two-Fistin' Danny. Never played baseball before a day in his life. He stood all of this big. But oh, he was so proud and so happy. On his right hand was a brand new Mizuno glove. And on his left hand was a brand new Wilson glove. He looked like a living crab. Danny, I love that you have 2 gloves, but which one are you going to use? Well, both of them, coach. What hand do you throw with? What do you mean? I found my right fielder. At least he'll stop everything. He has 2 gloves. Then I met Sid. Sid was so happy. He'd just moved to America. His parents were from India. He was a foreign exchange student. And he was so happy to be playing American cricket. Never played baseball a day in his life. But he was there, possibility abounding. But my favorite player of all was Marco. Marco was there because his parents said he was going to be the next major league star. Marco said, "I hate baseball." Welcome to the team. You can imagine how good those first practices were. We did a great job of running the bases. Marco did an especially good job. That as he ran the bases, when he got to third, he would stop and turn and look to home. And just like an action hero, a superhero, he would run down the third base line at this actual speed. 27 minutes to reach 60 feet. Well, the thing about coaching Little League is at some point you have to play some games. I wish that wasn't true, but it is. We showed up for our first game, we took the field, and in the 3rd inning, I looked out, and in left field, where Marco was supposed to be playing, he was gone. Gone. Like, what happened? I don't know. I thought you knew. I don't know. Where is Marco? Marco! And from the tall grass I hear, "Hello." Marco sits up in the tall grass. I'm like, "Marco, you've got to stand up. We're playing a game. You're going to get hurt. Come on, buddy." Slowly, Marco rises from the tall grass. "Marco! Marco, sit back down. Where are your pants?" Well, that was the highlight of that game. We were not nearly as good as our 0-22 record indicated by the last game of the season. We were so bad that even Chico's bail bonds would not have sponsored us. But something happened that last game. Throughout the course of that journey, somehow, those kids had gotten a little bit better. Nick had learned how to throw a ball. Joey was fast. Really, really fast. And that last game, in the 7th inning, we found ourselves up by 1 run with 2 outs in the last inning. 17-16. It was a pitcher's duel. And we looked and said, "I think this might be the game that we win. This could be it." But I started thinking back in my head, and I'm like, maybe I made a couple bad decisions in this game on where to play players. It's because Marco's mom had this thing that she wanted her son to really like baseball, so she came to me before the game and said, "We want Marco to play catcher this day." I'm like, why? Do you think he can catch? She said, no. She thinks that the catcher's equipment makes him look like a superhero. I said, sure, at least he'll be wearing pants. But there was only 1 out away. And as Nick reared back and threw the perfect pitch that lobbed, that he knew that even I couldn't hit, it came in, and Marco and the batter both did what they do. The batter closed his eyes. Marco closed his eyes. And the ball passed through the strike zone. The umpire said, strike 3. And the batter said, I should run. And Marco said, are we done? Like, Marco, get the ball, get the ball. And he turned, and somehow, when the ball hit the backstop, it just beautifully arced and fell right into Marco's glove. And he stood staring at it as the first run ran across the plate. Marco, tag the run, tag him. The runner on second was coming down the line now, running, and Marco starts running after him. Again, actual speed. And he reaches out, like, Marco! And he reaches out to tag him. And he goes, oh, drops the ball. Tags him and goes, you're it! And runs away. 0-22. Make that 0-23. So we sat at the end of the game, and I always had this tradition that I would always pull the kids aside, have them sit, and we would talk about what they had learned that day. And that day I asked them, what did you learn this season? And I was expecting the same responses as always, but I was shocked because Danny said, I learned something this year. Sometimes it's good to make a choice. It turns out he was left-handed. He couldn't catch, but he could throw. Sid reached out and said, I learned something this year. What you learn in one thing can be used in something else. He was great at running up and hitting a ball. Marco said, I learned something this year. It's good to not be it. And I looked at the parents and I said, I'm sorry, guys. It's the best we could do. And they said, what are you sorry about? You coached a team that ended up almost winning a game. Nobody else would do this. You're the nicest guy we know. And I said, but we finished in last place. And I'll never forget this. One of the parents turned to me and said, no, nice guys don't finish last. They're just playing a different game. What games are you playing? That wasn't my only season coaching them. I watched those kids grow up. I came back for more. Just like all of you come back for more. I watched them grow. 6 years later, those same kids showed up and won a district title. And as I stood celebrating, I looked beyond the left field fence and said, is that Marco? We're conditioned that we're supposed to win at things. But everything in life is not a game. And if it is a game, there are different games we play. Some games have rules, some games don't have rules. But for some reason, we are told that in order to be successful, we have to be a winner. But at what? Life doesn't have a playbook. There are no rules to how you win at life. What you do is making a connection with somebody that helps you take the next step forward and helps somebody else take the next step forward. And together you're on a journey together. We've been told that there are winners and there are losers, but nobody's told us how they keep score. We have finite games and infinite games in life. We have those games that are structured and have all the rules, We know what those are. We know how to play those games. Games like baseball, that sometimes we don't play well, but we still play. And then we have games like life and learning and school. They don't necessarily have as many rules. Learning doesn't have rules. School has rules. You get grades, and that measures something, but it doesn't measure how you learn. As we move throughout life, we keep playing different games, but how we play those games changes, and what games we play dictates where we go in life. The end of my very last season, those kids have grown up. They're actually in college now. And the very last day that I coached them, I was graduating from college with a master's degree. They took time out to make sure that they knew how proud they were of me. None of them are going to be pro athletes, especially Marco. But he did get a full ride scholarship as a thespian. He likes performing. He learned some things. And they say that sports is supposed to teach us how to do things and have to teach us in life. But it's not necessarily it teaches us how to win at specific games, but it teaches us how to apply skills that we learned into a different situation. Those kids taught me that playing the right game by my own rules matters. 7 years ago, I walked into a Toastmasters club for the first time and found out that there were a lot of other nice guys finishing last that were playing a different game. Every day that we walk through the doors of our club and we invest in the growth of somebody else, we are not playing a game that others understand. We're playing the game of helping somebody get better. We're playing the game of helping somebody take that next step, of learning what they can do, of finding their superpower, of keeping their pants on in public. Life gives us opportunities to look at the world unencumbered by what we're supposed to do. All of us have the opportunity to make up our own rules and play our own games our way. What we do as Toastmasters is to bring people together, to walk together, to be together. We are better together than we are separately. Stop competing with others and start just trying to grow. Prez outspoke 33,000 people to win a trophy. But there were 32,999 people in that contest that also took a step, learned something new, and became a better version of who they were supposed to become. Did they lose just because they didn't get the big trophy? No. They won because they did something they didn't think they could do. The next time you are presented with a challenge that you don't know if you can win or lose, know that you can define the rules of the game. And remember, the next time you walk past a field that is unmarred by the footsteps of children's dreams, that you yourself have the opportunity to write a new future. And maybe that future will just require you to learn how to hit a softball. Thank you.